Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Thank you for joining our show today. As the followers of this radio show know, Wednesdays are the days that I interview activists, as I said in the bumper. And today I am more than excited to have a personal friend and a personal healer on with us on the radio, Dr. Bob Heron. He is out of Las Vegas. When I knew Dr. Heron, he was in Santa Ana, California. And when I first met him, I honestly did not believe in alternative healing at all. I thought it was a bunch of hooey. A friend of mine bought my very first session with Dr. Bob, and I was flaming mad driving down the freeway thinking I had to hire a babysitter to go see this quack. And at the time, I was suffering pretty severely from female problems. I had alopecia. I had early onset arthritis. And I met Dr. Bob, and honestly, within 2 years, all those conditions were gone. And so he has generously opted to, join us. I called him and asked him if he could share some information about how we can protect ourselves from the onslaught, the environmental onslaught that we're in right now. So let me introduce Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob, thank you for joining us here.
My pleasure, Lonnie. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm actually doing really great, thanks to you. I mean, I do not know where my life would be if I had not met you. I was quite ill when I met you. I was a chronically in pain person. And today I'm 60 years old. And frankly, I feel healthier today than I did when I met you at 37. So personally, thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So I asked you on here to help us discuss, how can we keep, we are living in the age of fission. After I discovered St. Louis is basically our own Fukushima, we have a nuclear catastrophe that most of America does not know about going on in St. Louis. There is World War II, Manhattan Project, nuclear waste, over 220,000 tons of it buried near the St. Louis airport. They're moving it, or they say they've moved it, but the people there are catastrophically dying. It's leaking. It's a disaster. It's a complete eyesore that no one wants to talk about because there's several million people that are affected. But it made me realize that, I looked up, there's a website called homefacts.com, and you can find out where the fuse wrap, where all the basic contamination sites are in our country, and we're one gigantic toxic slough. So I think, I wanted to talk to you about how do we keep ourselves well, healthy, and happy? I mean, what things can we do to help ourselves in all of this?
Well, first of all, typically, if you're gonna move into a neighborhood or a place or something like that, make sure you find out where these toxic sites are. I personally live in Las Vegas, and when we moved from Southern California to Las Vegas, there is some toxic sites here because there's military bases here, and there's a lot of toxic waste in this area. We found out that in one of the nicest neighborhoods is one of the worst toxic sites around. So
Wow.
we ended up moving to the very opposite side of the city, completely opposite side of the city, to say try to keep away from it as far as possible, and go up as high as we possibly can, because toxicity will go down, and sometimes radiation will come out too. One of the best things to do is keep yourself healthy as much as possible. I mean, that's probably the most important thing. I think with radiation, iodine is the most important thing. The most important thing. If you remember during the 50s and 60s, during the Cold War years, they used to have iodine tablets in every school, just
Hmm.
in case of nuclear waste and nuclear war. So iodine is one of the. I actually find out that I would say 99% of the patients that come in and see me have an iodine deficiency.
Didn't I have an I?
99%.
I think I had an iodine deficiency when I
Yes,
met you.
yes, you did. You had an iodine deficiency too. Yes, and even there was no major toxic waste there, but there's nuclear radiation waste around the world all the time, all the time.
Right.
So, and then you talk about, Japan, you talk about St. Louis, we're getting bombarded by this thing on a regular basis. So
Right.
typically what I just do is I make sure that people are taking a good form of iodine.
And what is that? What's a good? How would we take that? What would that be?
Well, you can get it in a tincture form. The one that I use is TBSC, which is a product that I get in Southern California. It's a water soluble iodine. Most of the iodines are going to be either potassium iodine or sodium iodine. They're the ones that will get you nervous and jittery, but the ammonium acid iodine will not do that, and still it will protect your body from radiation.
And how much would a person take of that a day?
Oh, very little. 1 or 2 drops a day. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Very. And typically, you'll find a person who has this radiation poisoning or an iodine deficiency. They would be very fatigued. They're tired. They're dragging. They can't get up in the morning. They can't get a good night's sleep. These are very, very good signs of an iodine deficiency. Very good signs of
Okay.
iodine
Okay.
deficiency.
So say that again. If you're tired or
If
fatigued
you're
or just
tired, you're fatigued, you're run down, you can't get sleep at night, you wake up, you're more tired when you wake up in the morning than when you went to sleep at night. These are all indications of an iodine deficiency. Iodine is so important for the body that it actually helps your thyroid work better, your endocrine system work better, which is your female hormones, your adrenal glands, your brain. Your brain needs iodine. It's one of the most important. I personally think it's one of the most important elements out there that everyone needs. And typically when I put a person on it, they usually will come back to me 1 or 2 weeks and say, "Amazing! What their life is 1,000 times better than where it was."
well, so if a person was to have these symptoms and go to a doctor, what would they suggest? I mean, what's the difference? Could a person sort of self-diagnose if you know you're fatigued, you're tired? Could a person reasonably say, or maybe that's related to celiac disease? I mean, there's so many different things. It's kind of confusing to find. Most people don't have quote alternative. I call people, the real doctors, the alternative health professionals. It's been suppressed. So how would a person who, say, lives in the Midwest go about self-diagnosing that? How would you know it's not celiac disease or something like that?
Well, celiac disease is an imbalance of gluten, where gluten has they don't the enzymes gluten has attacked the celiac, the villi in the intestines. Typically, what happens, I'm a big indicator that gluten is really not a good thing to have in your body anyhow. So I don't think it's one of these products that have changed over time because of our industry of alternating seeds and stuff like that. So it's I'm not big on the gluten thing. I normally try to get people off the gluten or keep it down as low as possible.
Okay.
Don't have bread 6 to 7 times a day. You know what I mean? Maybe have it
Right.
once a week. Maybe once a week is good enough for you. Eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, eat more fish, which is better off. When you get
Well,
into
the
the
fish,
fish,
the fish is a
yeah,
hard thing now because of
yeah,
Fukushima. Like
right,
I went to New Orleans to visit my friend Mary, and I swear I could not eat the shrimp. I wanted that normalcy bias. I wanted to be with her and eat shrimp, so I ordered it. And as I'm eating it, I felt like I was eating poison. I just
yeah.
couldn't. I couldn't eat it, and I couldn't eat the fish. It's like eating a time bomb almost
Yeah,
anymore.
it really is, and that's why like the iodine is very important because iodine will help pull that radiation out of your body. That's what it's meant to do. is get rid of that radiation. You also got to realize that you got to get your gut back to balance. You got to get your immune system back in. So you got to get rid of, like, if you have celiac disease, you got to get celiac under control. A couple of good natural doctors will help that tremendously. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease. And what we have found out that people who have autoimmune diseases never have one. They usually have two or more. So you got to figure out, and usually the one that's the most prevalent, the one that's showing most of the symptoms, that's not the one you treat. You treat the other one that's not as prevalent. Like, I had a woman who had eczema, and she had celiacs. So we treated the eczema, and the celiacs went away. So even with her, through her education, I said, I still don't want you eating gluten because I don't think that's a good product anyhow. But mainly, get your gut back to balance again. Detoxify yourself. Get rid of the candida. The candida weakens your immune system tremendously. And I'm going to say, close to 95% of people have candida growing inside the system.
And what's a good detox then? What would be a good protocol for doing a good detox?
Well, the big thing, there's a lot of detox diets out there that are really, really hard to stay on. They're very, very hard to stay on. So typically what I have a person do is just do like January is one of the best times in the world because you just got rid of the holiday season. You just ate all the cookies and all the crap and all the junk that you normally eat. And now you want to do is get your gut back together. So I just say go to any health food store, go get yourself like a 7-day detox or a 10-day detox and just drink and take those pills for 7 to 10 days. You know what I mean? That will start cleaning your system up. And then start eating foods that have good bacteria in the thing. You want to get the good bacteria back in your gut, like kefir. You got to have kombucha tea is very, very good for you. Yogurt is actually good for you if you can tolerate the dairy. There's a whole bunch of right. If you can't tolerate the dairy, then I would go more with the kombucha tea type of stuff because that will have a lot of bacteria in it too. Make sure also take a decent probiotic that's in the refrigerator, not over the counter, but it's in the refrigerator because you want to keep those bacteria alive. I'm a big believer on.
How much of the probiotic tablets do you take? Because I have one and it says take one a day, and I'm kind of afraid to take more than one a day. I don't know what's.
You can't overdose yourself with the probiotic. If you have too many probiotics, you just get healthier and healthier. And the worst, and most probiotics where people say take it with a meal, I'm a believer that they're bacteria that live in your gut, so they should stay in your gut as long as they possibly can before you have a bowel movement. So I always tell people take them at bedtime. Let them grow for 8 hours inside your body.
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay.
And then so what happens? You and then you're not eating food, so they're growing around your body So that's a very, very good way. Exercise. Get up and go for a walk. Exercise a little bit. You want to get the oxygen running through your blood and running through your system. So detox is probably the best things in the world to do. I normally will recommend in my office we do detox at least 3 times a year. We do it in January. You do it for a spring cleaning, and then you do it in September.
Okay.
Because from September to January, you're just going to eat junk. And guess when? Every time when the flus and colds come around.
Around that time.
September to January, exactly.
Right.
It's because you're eating a whole bunch of sugar, your immune system gets weakened, and then now these bugs come around and you pick up the bugs.
I was at a physical therapist yesterday, and she said, surprisingly enough, because I have given up sugars. That's kind of one of my new things. I've totally, no more sugar into my system as much as possible. The yogurt actually has a lot of high sugar, and I am very dairy intolerant, so every time I have yogurt, my kidneys hurt. But She was telling me that sugar is actually very hard on your heart.
Extremely hard on your heart. Also, the reason why it's high on your heart is because it pulls magnesium out of your body. Because for every teaspoon of sugar you have, it takes 4 teaspoons of magnesium to remove that sugar out of your body. Wow. So what happens, you end up having a magnesium deficiency. Now, women who have osteoporosis, it's not calcium, it's magnesium that's the problem. So usually we have most of our people in our client that magnesium is the biggest problem now, mainly because of sugar. I mean, look at diabetes, what is the medical profession called diabetes. It's actually insulin resistant. It's actually caused by high fructose corn syrup. That's been an epidemic that people have been on high fructose corn syrup since the 70s and 80s. And now we have all these people with diabetes, and it's an epidemic now. And that's why a lot of these drugs that are coming out for diabetes are fast-tracked. They're fast-tracked out because what happens is it's an epidemic, and there's nothing out there that can cure it. The only way to cure it is diet and exercise. But what they do is that they fast-track these drugs, and then they find out, that drug causes cancer, causes heart disease, causes liver failure, causes kidney failure. You see where I'm coming from? So
But what is keeping the medical profession from actually fessing up and telling people it's about, like instead of giving, how is it that a person can go to a doctor like my friend Jenny? She'd rather stay, she'd rather stay ignorant and take her medications as prescribed by her doctor. Then, I mean, it really is important to her. She feels we've had long conversations about this. She feels much more secure taking a pill from her doctor, say, than going to the store and getting some tincture of iodine.
One of the reasons for that is because no responsibility. If that person told me to do this, then I don't have to worry about it anymore. Let him worry about it. Now, do you actually think your doctor's sitting up at night worrying about your health?
No.
No, really. Speak realistically. No, he's not. All his job, and then people don't realize that doctors are not into health; they're into disease control, which is what their job is, and they're very, very good at that. I'm 100% with if you have a problem and you have to get out of a crisis mode, a poison is a very good way of getting out of crisis mode. Now, to get healthy, no, you got to take responsibility for your own health. But a doctor will take care of your symptoms. So if you have these symptoms, he'll give you a pill to get rid of those symptoms. Now, is your problem solved or is your symptoms gone away? Your symptoms are gone away. Your problem is you still got the problem. It's like driving your car and your engine light goes on. So what you do is you drive over to your MD and the MD takes the engine light, the light bulb out and throws it away. Is your problem solved? No, you still got a problem with the engine, you know what I mean? But you have no symptoms anymore, so the symptoms are gone. So really, but I'm not against it. I'm 100% for them because if you get into a car accident, don't come over to me. Go to the emergency room. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you want health, come and talk to see me because I'll get you into natural health.
Yeah, that reminds me. I remember when Sterling was a teenager, she got an ear infection. She was smoking cigarettes, and she did not want to take the antibiotics, and I brought her to see you. She wanted you to fix her, right? Because she knew that you could help her heal. And you looked at her and said, okay, do you want to, I can give you something, but do you want to do the slow train or you want to do the fast train? Like, you just need those antibiotics and you need to stop smoking. That's really And of course, she took the antibiotics and did not quit smoking.
Right.
and summarily got ear infection after ear infection. You know what I mean? Like so.
But that's good. But you have a choice. In life you have this choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this is the hardest part about the whole thing that's happening. This community is particularly on these alternative radio stations. We're particularly sensitive to the toxins and the pollution, and a lot of people just really feel devastated by the enormity of this, the enormity of the situation and the complete denial of the medical industry and our government, the people who are responsible. Like the EPA right now is, denying, there was a flood in St. Louis and the very next day the EPA came out and said, we have no reason to believe that the radiation is escaping into the environment.
Yeah, I mean, really, seriously. It's the exact same saying that smoking never causes lung cancer.
Right.
They've never admitted that. They have never admitted that ever. Even to this day, it's not admitted. You know what I mean? That smoking gets. Yeah, even to this day, it's never admitted because we would have to say 100% of the time, 100% of people, everyone that smoke would get lung cancer. Then it's prevalent. It's like, oh my God, that's not how the thing works. Everybody's biochemically different. So one person can satisfy with a higher degree of whatever, and another person cannot. And that's why we get these kids who have ADD and ADHD is because the family members, the parents have been underneath a lot of stress, and they've passed the stress down to the kids. So what happens is when we were growing up in our generation, very few had kids that were ADD or ADHD. Very few. You know what I mean? And now it's 40 to 50% of these kids are ADD or ADHD. It's ridiculous. I lectured around the country on ADD and ADHD, and I found out that places like in Boise, Idaho, where 35% of the kids were on some type of medication for it. Wow. It was ridiculous. I found out that what happened was that I would go back there and teach them. I said, all you have to do is get rid of the processed foods, get rid of the sugars, get them into exercise, and get them and challenge their brain. Because they're very smart people, they're extremely smart people. Mm-hmm. I said, but the parents they make more. The government will give them more money, put them on Ritalin or Wellbutrin, and these kids that are on Ritalin and Wellbutrin, they found out that 96% of them become hardcore drug addicts as adults. 96%. Now, who's responsible? 96%. 96%.
Wow. Even
who's responsible?
Regardless of economic status or where their background is or any of that stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then they start worrying about why do we have a drug problem in this country? My God, I mean, you poison the kids at a young age. When they get older, they can't get the Ritalin. Well, now they put them on long term, but back then they 18 years old and that was it. So 18 years old, they're going on the street, they're trying to find the meth or the crack, and it's ridiculous.
I know.
And then we start complaining about a drug program and throwing money at a drug program that we created the drug program to begin with.
Right. Well, what's the take just to control the population? That's really the issue, and to make people feel guilty and disempower people. That's what I was watching on C-SPAN that the opiate use in this country has skyrocketed in the last 7 years, like skyrocketed off the charts. Now,
and you know why that is, right?
No,
it's actually Afghanistan.
What?
It's Afghanistan. Most 99% of opium comes from Afghanistan. Right? Now we have a war in Afghanistan, right? So we need the drug lords. The drug lords control that country, right? We don't want the Taliban there anymore, but the drug lords control the country. So we're allowing the drug lords to actually bring heroin into the United States so they can actually give us information on the Taliban.
Wow.
Is that insane?
Yes, that is insanity.
I mean, they turn that back when they bring in these like kilos of cocaine, kilos of heroin onto planes and just send them over to the United States, and they don't even check them. They don't even check them. They're not like hiding it. They're putting them on planes and just sending them across.
And they just don't even that kind of, I actually have a theory about that. I think our government runs the drug war. Like I think that they're running the drug industry. Like there's people high up in government who are very connected to our government and in the military who are making a lot of money off of the drug war, which is why they, and it's kind of a win-win for them because they turn people into drug addicts. It takes people off the election rolls. It gets people disengaged from their society. It makes people feel guilty. It demoralizes them, the easily controlled people. And that's one of the things about this radio show. Like my whole focus, is really about teaching people to empower themselves. We don't have to buy the script that we're meaningless and that our voice doesn't matter and that we mean nothing to the world. I think that's one of the most offensive messages that people have just bought into, Bob. I can't tell you the number of people that I've talked to who tell me that it doesn't matter, our voice doesn't matter, the elites are going to do what they do and we're just all super screwed, we're at their mercy.
Well, that's an easy way to live because it's not your responsibility. I can't do anything. I'm just like one person can change the world. One person's idea will change the world. But what happens is people get into this habit. It's like, well, there's nothing you can do. I mean, at one time, our government was more the government of the people. It's a government of the corporations. I mean,
yeah,
just look at '08 when the economy went to collapsing. Who got all the money? The corporations got the money, not the people.
Well,
people paid for this.
We're about to have another economic collapse. They're in Davos right now. I saw a report this morning. They're in Davos trying to figure out the declining economy. I figure they're planning the October surprise for the United States.
But that's exactly right, because in Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Second Chance, he mentioned the same thing. October is when we usually have an economic collapse. And so they're looking at October is where the time it's going to happen. So I tell people good luck because you think the last one was bad. You know what I mean? You think '08 was bad. And '08 was a worldwide one. This is going to be unbelievable. I mean, the United States is just printing money just to print money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't just print money out of the air. You know what I mean? That'd be great. It's like I'll go to the store and I say I'll just write a check because I have a whole bunch of checks.
Yeah,
I have no money in the account, but I have a lot of checks, so I'm just going to write checks, keep on going. What happens to people if we did that? We go to jail. You know what I mean? We go to jail.
Actually, that reminds me of my first husband when Dudley and I were first married. He used to do that. He had no concept about money. He'd go to the store with the checking book. He's like, well, we still have checks.
It's like my son when he was 5 years old. He said, well, just take that card and put it in the machine, Dad, and take money out. You know what I mean? Oh, that's not really how that works. But that's a 5-year-old. You know what I mean?
Well, look, on the face of, we know that this economic collapse is coming. And so this is one of my focuses is to share people with EFT and alternative healing. So how can people prepare for October? We can sense it coming very rapidly, very soon. What kind of things should we be stockpiling up, say this iodine tincture, and should we?
I think you got economics. When the economics go down, then the environment goes down. I mean that's obvious. I mean so the environment's going to get 10 times worse. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then what's happened is that, and then you got, if you look on the news lately, Monsanto is going heavily on positive ads about Monsanto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if they're sending millions of dollars to tell that they're really good, they're
Yeah.
really bad. All right, let's be realistic about this. If someone's paying millions of dollars to tell you that they are really good people, they're probably not really good people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't spend money like that. It's like if you go to a salesman, the salesman says, trust him, trust me, don't trust him at all. You know what I mean? The first words out of his mouth is a lie.
Yeah.
So my big thing is, get yourself as happy as possible. Protect yourself. I mean, the economy is going to collapse. We know that at the situation. So I always tell people, get into things like, like the new like electronic money, which is very, very secure, which is like Bitcoin and BitGold and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of policies out there that will protect people tremendously. Um, you really want to protect yourself. You want to get, tangible things that tangible, like your house and, your car and things that actually are worth something to your body. But, and there's people out there that just take advantage of you left and right, because in our society is made up by giving you information on fear, making your decision on fear. Oh
Right.
my God, if you don't take this drug, this and this is if you don't take this drug, I can't be your doctor. I really don't want you to be my doctor anyhow. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I always remember having a conversation. I went to see a doctor, and the doctor told me something. I looked at him, and it was a shut up answer. It was like, and I looked at him, I said like this, seriously, you believe that? And he said, well, yeah. And I turned around and said, do you know who I am? And he goes, no. I said, why don't you Google me, find out who I am? And the guy did and said, oh, yeah, you're that guy. Yeah, that's right.
Huh.
But it is really protect yourself as much as possible. Keep yourself happy. Live in the moment. Enjoy the moment that you got. Life is all about now. Life is all about now. You know what I mean? That's all it is.
It's true.
Everything else really doesn't matter. I mean, if you go spend 5 minutes with a child, I'm telling you, they'll get you right back into what life's all about.
It's true. I mean, that is really the key here, is to just not get into the devastation. And, we have a conversation here. I have an artist up in Calgary. His name is Thomas Ackerman, and he talks about what we have is a lack of conscience on our planet right now. People are not acting on their gut to do the right thing. They are just taking the easy way out and blaming and yelling and screaming. But it takes some responsibility and for us to act on our conscience and to stay. I mean, and again, it does come back down to personal health. Like, we cannot be happy while you're driving through Burger King. That kind of food just has negative energy that's going to pull you down. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
All it is sugar and fat. The two worst things in your body is sugar and fat. That's all.
I
That's any fast food. It's all it can say. That's why you actually get attracted to it, because of the smell of that fat. You
Right.
know.
Right. And
Yeah.
they know that, and they keep us going on that one. So in general, people should just, so this iodine, is there any other supplement that people could take that you think people should be taking on a daily basis? Like, we have this iodine down, just a drop or two of it is enough for it.
Right. Most people, like I always tell, if you're going to get a vitamin, go get a whole food vitamin, something made by food. 99% of vitamins out there are chemical made or pesticides. Really, seriously, almost all vitamin B is some form of pesticide.
Oh, you
And
mean
most vitamin, yeah, most vitamin Bs are actually pesticide or radiation.
the ones that you buy in a bottle, those B vitamins that you buy in a bottle, are all just pesticides? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, if you say B12 is actually cobalamin, right? And then you can't get cobalamin. Cobalamin has to be attached to something. So most companies, what they do is put cyanide cobalamin on it. So they're
Great.
actually using a cyanide molecule on that to actually get the cobalamin in your body. A much better form is methyl cobalamin. Methyl is more of a natural form of cobalamin. People will take folic acid, right? People take folic acid. Acid is just acid, right? What God made was folate. And really, B3 is folate, not folic acid. The government said that B3 is folic acid. It's really folate. Folate is dark green vegetables. So could you take a pill or eat dark green vegetables? I'd rather eat dark green vegetables. Now, to make most of the other vitamin Bs in your system, what do you need? You need probiotics. So where are you going to get the probiotics? Well, you can get it from your kefir or your yogurt, or you can actually get from kombucha. And kombucha, people actually make kombucha. They just get a little bit of the yeast and they make their own all the time. Or you could just buy them in health food stores, kombucha tea, which is very, very healthy. It's that little vinegary taste type stuff, very, very good for you.
I used to make it, but my dentist told me that it rots your teeth.
No, actually, what happens is it really doesn't, because what happens is it doesn't stay on your teeth that long. Now, if you did put it on, because what it does is actually it actually pulls plaquing off your teeth.
Okay.
So it actually dissolves plaquing. So when it dissolves the plaquing, they said it dissolves the teeth. No, it dissolved the plaquing. And if you dissolve the plaquing off your teeth, do you need the dentist?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I think you do. I would think
Yeah.
you do, don't you?
Well, but if you take all the plaquing off your teeth, then you don't need the dentist, because what does the dentist's job is to do is take the plaquing off your teeth.
Okay, so you can tell I'm a completely non-science person here, Bob. I'm struggling
Yeah,
with my science classes in school,
but
so
it's more like usually when I hear someone say something, I usually try to feel. Or I see a research project, right? I try to look at the research. Who wrote the research project? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Who's benefiting from that project?
Well, that's kind of like me. We're hearing in the news right now. In fact, it was reported on the other show, First Cup with Jules, before the First Cup with Jules. She was talking about this new Zoist virus that's causing the encephaly with these children. That has me spitting nails, because I think that's just a switch and bait by the nuclear industry, because we know that ionizing radiation causes encephaly among children. And
Right,
that town in South America is where they're uranium mining. And they're not really doing a really good job of it. And so
right.
I think it's caused by the radiation, but they're using it now as a virus, and they're going to sell all these women this antibody, this vaccine that they say that they could, you got to take this pill to prevent this, and who knows what it's going to do to the children, anyways. I mean,
Exactly, because it's a fast track drug.
it's so
And fast track drugs,
outrageous. It's
yeah,
so outrageous that how they just manipulate people's minds, because we're going to have a lot more encephaly on this planet from the radiation. We already know that. I mean, that's
right.
just where it's a given. We know that. And so in these towns where especially in South America, where the regulations are lax, uranium mining is rampant, and they are just complete disregard for people's health. And that seems to be kind of the general MO of how is it that we have an entire world system? I mean, have you ever given that some thought? Like, we have all these governments, it's almost like they all intentionally decide to just ignore best health practices for people in one or
Right, because
two
remember,
countries.
there's no money in it. There is no money. All the money is in the pharmaceutical drugs. All the money is take the power away from the people and put it on people who don't really care about the people. I mean, we can't live in a way, if we keep on growing the way the world is growing, right? We'll overpopularize our planet. So people got to die to have other people live. And what it turns out to be the fittest. It's sad. It's really a sad society. And my theory is always empower yourself. You're the one who has control of this. You take control of the situation. You take control of your health. Take control of your family. Take control about things that important to you.
Yeah, that's exactly my position. Is like so many people have just decided that they just can't make that switch. Like, they know about it. I've met a lot of people. Like, in fact, I mail out that book Healthy Healing to lots of people, lots and lots of people who have sent me emails and told me that they have this disease or they're suffering from this, and I'm like, look, really do these things, but they half-heartedly do it. They don't really believe, honestly, and I'm sympathetic with them, and mostly because of my history with you. If
Right.
I had not seen, if Chuck, that guy that bought me the very first visit with you, had not prepaid for my visit and insisted that I go, I honestly would never have found out an alternative way of healing. I probably would have been much sicker today than I was. And then you know what I mean?
Oh, that's general. General. I get most of the people that come and see me have never seen. They have nobody else to go to. The MDs have already can't kick them out. Nobody can help them out. They come and see me. I just had a woman yesterday who was like that, and she came in. She said she saw me in October. In her situation, she had a sinus infection, which was causing her digestive system to be messed up. Which I'm finding more and more about that than anything else like that. People who have a postnasal drip, people that wake up in the morning with a cough, they wake up and they clear their throat in the morning, once or twice in the morning. That's a postnasal drip. They have a fungal infection in the sinuses, and that will mess up the whole digestive system, which messes up the whole, because your immune system is your digestive system. That would mess up your whole immune system. And then they're wondering why they get colds and why they get flus and why they have the cough and why they don't feel good and why they run down. And when I explained to them, I said, like, all you have is a simple little sinus infection. Kill the sinus infection, and they do. I actually came up with a product that actually dissolves sinus infections pretty quickly, within about 2 to 3 months, because they're chronic. And they all get back. The woman came back to me. She goes, "I feel better than I've ever felt in my entire life." And I said, "Yes," and that was in 2 months, two and a half months.
What
So she was back
product
to
is that? Where can people find that product?
Actually, you can actually get it. You can actually get on my thing is heronchiropractic.com. You can actually get to drbobheron.com, and you can call the number up and they will send you the information on it. It's called Nasal Wash or Nasal Clear. I think it's called Nasal Clear now. We changed it around a little bit. But it is probably, I'd be honest with you, it's probably the most amazing product I've ever seen that I developed. And I actually developed it and for sinus infections. And I find out that 96% of people in Vegas have a sinus infection because this is an inland ocean at one time. So we got fungus. People that live in Oregon, oh my God, I would say about at least 95% of people in Oregon have some type of sinus infection. Wow. And they always clear in their throat. They always got a problem. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. They're always coming down with colds, always coming down with flus. They got all digestive problems. All digestive problems have the same thing. Arthritis related to that because they don't digest their foods, so they don't get the nutrients, and the nutrients don't go into the joints, so then they got joint stiffness. They're tired, they're fatigued, they can't sleep at night because they can't breathe at night. All people with sleep apnea, they all have the same. Everybody who has sleep problems have the thing. People who have digestive problems, because what happens, the fungus actually creates your body to hold on to more sugar. So now your sugar goes high. Now you have diabetes on top of that. Wow. It's really, it turns out to be, it's just amazing how many people have a problem with this thing. I had a little girl I treated her, she was like 12 years old, and I've treated her since she was 4. And she always talked like that. That's how she talked all the time. And she came in and she had some digestive problems. We couldn't figure out a digestive problem. I gave her the nasal wash, and she turned to her mother and said, "Mom, I could breathe for the first time." Her mother cried because it was the first time her mother heard her real voice.
Wow.
And in that little girl, it took her, I think it was like 3 months of spraying it every night, morning and night, and completely cleared, never had a problem since. I haven't seen her in about a year and a half. I saw her on the street the other day. She says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." I said, "My pleasure." So as long as we figured out why your body was out of whack.
So it's not something you have to, when I hear about a nasal wash, I think about that stuff like Dr. Oz had you pour this water in your nose and drip it out.
Right, that's a neti pot. And a neti pot they usually put saline in it, salt water in the thing. And salt water will actually hold on to more moisture in your sinuses, which is okay, but it's not going to clean your sinuses. It's not going up into your sinus. It's just going up in the navel cavity and coming right back down again. So I mean, you put your nose, it comes out right out of your mouth.
I can tell you what, in Oregon here, that I know that there's chronic illnesses going on. Like I have a friend of mine her and her kids have been sick for 2-3 weeks, just they can't get over it. And but then again, they still eat cheese, they still drink milk every day. I mean, which, like honestly, I mean,
all dairy products will make the mucus hold in place, which weakens their immune system because now you got too much dairy going into your system,
Wow, that's the first time I've heard that nasal problems can actually cause sleep apnea. That's a very interesting.
Yeah, actually, because sleep apnea is that what they're doing is they don't breathe properly. Why they don't breathe properly? Because the sinuses are clogged up. Huh. So what they do is they skip a breath every once in a while, and they just don't breathe. If you don't breathe when you're sleeping, you're not going to wake up in the morning.
Yeah, well, I know some people that are hooked up to a machine. I know 2 people that are hooked up to a machine at night, and they still eat dairy. I'm like, to me, it's just insane how people would rather take these medications and use these machines than change their lifestyle, exercise vigorously, and change their lifestyles. It's
It goes back to responsibility. It's easier not to take responsibility. It's not my fault. You hear this all the time. It's not my fault. I have this disease. And the only thing that could treat a disease is a drug. Uh-huh. So I have to go to my doctor to go get a drug. Like when people come and see me, they say, "Do you treat diseases?" I say, "No, I treat people who have disease. I don't treat the disease. I don't care about the disease. I don't care. A disease is a bunch of symptoms. I care about the person. Why do you have these symptoms? Let's get you back into balance, and all these symptoms will go away. Let's go fix the root of your problem. Don't treat your symptoms. Get to the root of your problem. Fix the root of your problem, and then all your symptoms go away. And then you live a happy, healthy life, and you feel better. You live longer.
That's what I did. I mean, honestly, since I met you, like it really changed my life. Like when I met you, I was a physical mess, and I was just going to doctor after doctor, and they wanted to put me on Prozac. They couldn't figure out why I was sick. The doctor literally said that, "Well, you shouldn't be sick."
Right.
You're probably just emotionally upset. So let's give you Prozac to calm yourself down so you can
Right.
stay well. I'm
Right.
like,
And think about what he just said. He just said that I can't figure why you like this, so it's all in your head and you're mental.
right. That's exactly what he told me. That's exactly what he told me.
I don't know what it is, so you must be mental. And I was like, that's insane. Just because you don't know, why don't you go find out more? Look at more people. Look at more studies. Look at what's going on with people.
Well, it's the
I mean,
looking at more studies, isn't it? That's the thing. That's the key that I'm finding out as I discover and research on the radiation, the causes of, what radiation and the harm. There's a big push with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the industry. They are seriously considering adopting the hormesis model of saying that a little bit of radiation is good for us and not measuring radiation anymore.
exactly right. Hey, we got so much we can't control it. So, just don't worry. It's like putting fluoride in water. It's like just keep on taking it. Shut up. You don't know any better. Don't worry about it. It's not going to. A little bit's not going to kill you.
Look, I'm telling you, my dentist. We don't have fluoride here in Eugene. My
Right.
dentist, I know for a fact, she hands out fluoride tablets to all of her children patients.
Oh my God.
We've had big arguments over this. She's like, well, you have to have the fluoride so that it'll protect your teeth. I said, yeah, but it causes cancer. It makes you die. She's like, I said, so you kill the patient and save the teeth? How does that make sense?
Well, if you look at this, just a fluoride situation, you have naturally forming fluoride, and then you have manufactured fluoride. Now, when the research was done on natural forming fluoride, it's very, very good. But that's not what they give you. They give you byproducts of aluminum manufacturing. See, when you make aluminum, the byproduct of aluminum manufacturing is a fluoride, but it's an inorganic fluoride. It's a really bad fluoride. And that's the one that's causing everyone's problem. If you took natural forming fluoride, and natural forming fluoride actually gets from little rivers and streams. So they don't use that, but that's what the research was done on. So they take this one thing and say, it's like analyzing apples and like a pile of crap. You know what I mean? And say, really, that's what it was. And then what we're going to do is the apples, we're going to call the crap an apple. And then we're just going to, and then we're going to analyze the apple and say, this is how good it is. So here's the crap that looks like it, that says it's an apple. Now eat that. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It really is amazing how they bait and switch everything. I mean, people talk about, when they look at testosterone on TV and they look at, male T and they talk about testosterone causes cancer. And they're like, oh my God, why don't you read the article? The article says that when you actually take testosterone, when men take testosterone, they take a high dose of testosterone. When the testosterone gets too high, it converts into estrogen. When men have too much estrogen, they have a heart attack.
Wow.
When women have too much testosterone, they have a heart attack. So the situation, they turn around and say, well, if you're taking testosterone, then you're going to get a heart attack. No, you idiot. It's actually what happens if you take too much of it. So what you have to do is you have to take what's called an aromatase inhibitor, which is a DIM, D-I-M. And that blocks testosterone converting into estrogen. And so what happens is any bodybuilder knows this. All bodybuilders do this all the time. And so what happens is as long as you're blocking the testosterone converting into estrogen, you're not going to get a heart attack. It's just, but they take this one little information and they switch it around, and then you start believing what they say on TV because, TV and the internet never lie. Nobody on the internet ever lied or gave false information. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all, they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
That whole thing about the testosterone, I was reading in Healthy Healing about Andromedy that men over 40 are especially sensitive to pesticides and hormones. And that is what she says is a direct correlation to their reduction in their male hormones. And if men would just get off pesticides and get off chemical foods entirely, their hormone levels will come to a normal. She said in her book she was talking about, she said, men never have these problems, erectile dysfunction, and all these male problems that are coming up in modern society because men are, for some reason, men over 40 or after Andromedy are particularly sensitive to chemicals and hormones. Do you know about that?
Oh yes, because every pesticide is estrogen. I mean, that's how the birth control pill came out. Is what they do is when a species has too much estrogen in your body, they actually cannot produce. When you take the birth control pill, what are you taking? Estrogen.
Oh.
You see what I mean? So as long as you're taking the birth control pill, you're getting it. So what happens? All the pesticides have all this hormones, all this estrogen on the body, and then the men eat the estrogen, which actually blocks testosterone, and then testosterone drops off. And then what happens? They start crying at the drop of a hat. They're very wimpy, like they don't have that motivation, that male motivation type stuff. They say, "What do you want for dinner?" Well, I don't know. I don't want to do anything. They have no energy. They don't want to exercise. They don't want to do anything. It's all low levels of testosterone. If a woman has low level of testosterone, she forgets.
Uh-huh.
She walks in a room and looks around the room and saying, "What the hell am I doing here? I was here for some reason." That's a low level of estrogen. Also, what happens is if they get very angry or they start crying at the drop of a hat. I mean, these are all levels of hormonal imbalances.
Huh.
I mean, I had people come into my office. They'd be crying at a drop of a hat, and I would put them on a therapy to actually get their hormones back in place again. And they would come back like weeks later, and They're off it for about a month, and they come back and they start crying. I was like, okay, here, go take this and go back. Take some more of this stuff, this natural stuff that actually makes your body make more of the hormones. And
Wow.
what makes the hormones is your adrenal glands, and your
Huh.
adrenal glands are glands that regulate stress in your body. And that's
Uh-huh.
why people who have anxiety, heart, what's it called, like a false heart attack and stuff like that, it's an anxiety attack. The adrenal glands are shot because they're too worked up, they're too stressed out, they're too worried about certain things.
Well, how do you pump up your adrenal glands? Would that be
Well, typically
through?
exercise. Exercise is probably the best thing to do. Go for a walk. If you're stressed out, you have no energy or anything else, start going for a walk every single day. Start off with like a half an hour a day, and then build up after that. And I'm telling you, adrenal glands will be very, very happy because you got to get rid of that adrenaline. You got to get rid of it. How are you going to get rid of adrenaline? Is exercise. Exercise
Hmm.
will get rid of adrenaline.
Wow. So that's in fact what happens with all these people that are completely out of shape is that they just, well, what do you think is this whole issue about the block to not exercising? I mean, people know that they need to exercise. How
Well,
is
you
it that people just don't give themselves that time?
Well, you also have you have a large group of people that have too much cortisol in their body, and they're the people that have the yellow fat. They got the big belly around their stomach, or they got the women will have the from mid thigh to their buttocks is really really big. Is what happens? They actually produce too much cortisol in their body. So when they exercise, what happens? They feel terrible after exercising. That's actually too much cortisol in their body. So typically, what I have to do is I usually have to put them on a product that actually will remove the cortisol in the body. Once the cortisol level goes back down, they exercise and they feel good. If you exercise and you feel terrible after you exercise, then you have way too much cortisol. So I have to tell people. Now, there's a simple little test that people can do. Very, very simple. You wake up and you know what burpees are? Where you jump up in the air and you go down, you do a push up, and then you jump up in the air and you go down and do a push up.
Yeah.
They're called burpees, right? Well, if you wake up in the morning, within 15 minutes of waking up, do 2 minutes of burpees. Now, your heart rate is going to go through the roof on that deal, right? So they do the 2 minutes of exercise and they stop. After 2 minutes, they stop. Within a minute, the heart rate will come right back down to normal and then go on with your day. Now, if you feel terrible from doing that exercise, you got way too much cortisol in your body.
Huh.
So you got to take things to get rid of the cortisol in your body. But if you feel good, I did this with my wife, and she did the exercise, and she just after she finished, she just got up and went back to bed and went to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And then I asked her, I said, "How did you feel today?" So she goes, "Well, I feel really, really good." And I said, "Okay, you got too much cortisol." And she says, "What do you mean by it?" She goes, "I feel good." And I said, "No, no, you went back to bed. You're not supposed to exercise and go back to bed. You know what I mean?" So she was like, "Oh yeah." I said, "All right, yeah." So once we get the cortisol off the body, she starts feeling better about
Is this
life.
something that somebody could self-diagnose? Say, go to your website and purchase a product for this too much cortisol, or buy a product, say on
Yeah,
Amazon or something?
right, I'll put it up on the website this afternoon. I'll put that information up on the website this afternoon. It's actually very, very simple. And then what happens? They just take these pills for like about 2 to 3 weeks, and then every once in a while go do that exercise again. See if you get tired. If you don't get tired, then you don't have enough cortisol. And then exercise is going to give you lots of energy. And so once energy gives you lots of energy, you're going to keep on exercising more and more often. But if
Uh-huh.
you're going to exercise, if you're tired, you're going to keep on doing that? No one's going to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right,
If
exactly.
you a cup of coffee, you go to sleep. You're not going to drink coffee in the morning. You'll drink it at night.
So let's give your website name again. That's what is it? BobHeron.com?
Yeah, it's either bobheron.com or you can go to Heron Chiropractic Center.com. One of the two.
Okay.
Heron, like the bird.
Okay. And you're out of Las Vegas, and people are anybody in Las Vegas. Why don't we give out your phone number, Bob, in case anybody wants to make an appointment with you? What's your phone number?
The number here is 702-804-0044. Now, I also have a lot of people that fly in to see me. Like, I got some difficult cases that fly in to see me. I give them a protocol. They leave and they come back and they feel mean. They talk to them once a month and they feel like a million times better. I also have two offices in Southern California, one in Riverside, California, and one in Newport Beach.
Okay. Okay.
Now that I semi-retired, so.
Okay, semi-retired. Okay, well, that sounds great. That's a shameless plug for you, but honestly, if anybody can, I mean, I can attest to the well-being that you get from this type of treatment. Now, how do people that don't have that ability, how would people find a good care, practitioner, what I call a real healer, a person who understands the body? How do people go about finding? I mean, my rule of thumb when I talk to people is if you go to talk to somebody and you don't feel good about that person, don't keep going back to them. Like, don't go to
Exactly
somebody.
right.
Like
Right.
people will say, "Well, I have this chiropractor, and I don't know if he's doing me any good." And I'm like, "Well, then why are you going to him?" So,
Right.
but people have this big fear about self-diagnosing. In this last half hour, we've talked about what iodine, and we've talked about the kombucha. We've
Right.
talked about this the nasal infection
The days are
thing.
clear. Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and the cortisol. So, are all of those things that people can actually do on
Yes,
their
you can do
own?
that. You could do that yourself. Typically, what I have like when people have like the sinus, if they think you have a sinus infection, you probably have a sinus infection. If you have a digestive problem, you have a sinus infection. You know what I mean? And typically, what I
If
have
you
people,
say that again, if you have a digestive problem, you have a sinus infection.
yes, because the postnasal drip will drip down your throat into your stomach,
Uh huh.
right? And
Huh.
so that's a poison. And so the fungus will go into your stomach, which neutralizes the acid in your stomach, which neutralizes your small intestine, which now you have your whole digestive system is all messed up, which actually weakens your immune system. So now your immune system is weakened, so it can't kill the fungus.
Huh.
It's pretty brilliant. I mean, these animals that live in our body are pretty brilliant. I mean, you get candida. Candida will tell you that you need sugar or you will die, or you need bread or you will die. You
Uh
know what I mean?
huh. Uh huh.
And these people get these crazies. They're like, I have to have it. Yeah, that's that bug that's living inside you. It lives off of sugar. So if he keeps on telling you that it needs it, you're going to give it to it. It feeds it up, and now you're addicted to it.
Uh-huh. Well, I know myself, like that really the first, I don't know, week and a half of strictly being completely off of sugar, which I've done before, but man, this time I was like, I actually had those feelings like there was in the evenings, I'd like, man, I really got to have some sugar, and I'd have to like calm myself. I had to develop a whole set of patterns, of different patterns. I just made a pot of tea and said, we're just going to have some tea. We're just going to I had to like talk myself through it.
Yeah, and that's a fight with that animal that's inside of you. So you have these microorganisms that are inside of you that really want this, and they'll tell you that you're nuts, you're insane, you're crazy. You better have this thing, or you're going to die. You can't live. And you start worrying, you start getting panic attacks. It's pretty amazing how these animals have control, and really it's all because of our diet. It's really 99% of our problem is the food we put into our body.
Right, right,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
That's
exactly.
really and 99% of the food that you put into your body, I mean, if it's not organic, you know what I mean, it's poison. I mean, let's be
Right,
realistic, you know what I mean?
right,
And sooner or later you figure out, why am I so tired? Well, you've been poisoning yourself for 30 years, you know what I mean?
right. Well,
You
that's
know, you've
the
been
one thing about buying organic. I live in Oregon. It's really easy for me to buy organic, but I'm really have come across a lot of people in other parts of the country where, like, I went to Louisiana, a little tiny head of lettuce was $3.99 that was organic, and
yeah.
in the grocery store there was organic lettuce and organic onions, and that was it. No regular. I
Yes.
mean, it was like really. I mean, I have not eaten organic. I've been in Oregon now 10 years. So when people have to eat non-organic food, is there anything that they could be doing to offset that? I guess it would be taking the iodine.
Yeah, the iodine would be one of the best things in the world for you. And also, some a natural form of vitamin B would be very, very. You also got problems with people who have really really bad B deficiency, is that they lost the intrinsic factor, which converts vitamin B to get absorbed into your body. They're people that hardly ever get well, and typically what I have them do is go to their natural doctor, go to the doctor and get vitamin B shots, um, and that will make them feel so much better. That will get them to make the intrinsic factor so they get it from their food. But that's pretty rare that you'll get people that missing intrinsic factor. In my office, I would say about 25% of the people that come in missing that intrinsic factor. But I normally see very, very difficult cases, like
Yeah.
people that nobody else can ever fix. I just had a couple people come yesterday that flew in from Chicago. Uh, with a major problem that no doctor could fix, and really, it was just a couple of minutes. I had a girl that lived here that moved to San Antonio, and she just couldn't walk, just fell down, and she's 13 years old, and I couldn't understand it, and I thought it was something very serious. And when I looked at her blood work, I wasn't so concerned. It wasn't what I thought it was. And I had the mother fly the girl back up to here to Vegas to see me. And she came in a wheelchair. And once I examined her, I found out that all she had was a vitamin D, and vitamin C deficiency, a severe. And so I gave her vitamin C and vitamin D right there in the office. And I said, okay, leave, get out of here. You're done. Go with your friends. Go play with your friends. So she goes, no, I need my wheelchair. I said, no, you don't. And she got up and she walked right out of the office.
Wow.
And all it was, and her doctors couldn't figure her out. Like, they gave her every wild disease in the world. Like, some of the disease they gave her, I was like, oh my God, you know.
I have a friend of mine. I know a friend of mine's daughter had that very same thing. They operated on her, and she's seriously got problems now. Probably they operated on her spine, and they didn't. You know, spine operations never go well. You know what I mean?
They never go well. You know, I mean, if you have a really severe case of scoliosis or something like that, that's affecting the organs and stuff like that, which typically if a person comes in, I just saw a case last week, which is a person, and my recommendation was surgery. It was too far gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I even told the person, I said, I would love to help you, but, you know, be honestly, there's no way in the world. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I mean, you know, by the time the body gets back to its normal function, I said the girl will be dead, you know? So I think they were having a surgery this week. So.
Wow. Well, Bob, we have about 3 minutes left. I really want to thank you for joining us, because really this information is really valuable. I mean, not to shamelessly promote you, but I will shamelessly promote you, because the information that you gave, seriously, I'm like a walking testimony to taking your advice. And, you know, to be honest, I am going to go to your website and get that nasal thing. I mean, I think that is, you know, for me, myself personally, a lot of the things that you were talking about, and I think a lot of people actually could benefit from this information. And, you know, in the age of fission, where we are constantly being bombarded, it is really seriously important for us to take back our power and decide to be happy. I think, can you address that whole decision to be happy? Because a lot of people just say, well, you know, I'm just running my life, I'm sort of getting through it, but that's not actually good enough, is it?
No, it's not. I look at life like I always tell people all the time. They come and see me. If you only had 6 months to live, what would you do differently in your life? So
yeah,
you
asked me that. You asked me that. I remember that.
Right. And
I said, me cry.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, if people don't really think about that. You know what I mean? I said, if you only had 6 months left to live, what would you do differently in your life? And if you have something that you would do, then go do that, because this is the only time you have. You know, most people, when they get down to death, they start worrying about all the things they should have done. You know what I mean?
Right.
And really, when it gets down to the bottom line, when you get down to close to death, really, the only thing that turns out to be important to you is family and friends.
Right.
Really, it's not the money, it's not the places you want to go to, it's just family and friends. You want to spend time with family and friends. If you only have a month to live, the best place to be is be around family and friends. You know, the people that give you the joy in your life. So really, I told people, like, live life like today's like your last day. You know what I mean? Like, if today's your last day, what would you do today that would make your life 10 times better?
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, don't go haphazardly and go, spend your money and spend everything else like that. But look at what's really important to you. Right. And really, what turns out to be really important to you is family and friends. I mean, that's the only thing you have left.
Yeah, exactly. And that, frankly, that's my motivation for doing this radio show, that people can empower themselves and really get the lives that they deserve. Because we're being told that we're not important, and the fact is, every single one of us is important.
Exactly right. Everyone's very, very important. Your decisions control everything. I mean, your decision, right? I mean, our people should take responsibility. My whole theory in my office was take charge of your health and take charge of your life. You know what I mean? This is your life. It's nobody else's life. Now, if you take charge of it and you make a mistake, then you don't want to make mistakes, so you're going to give it to somebody else who doesn't really care.
We have 10 seconds. I want to thank you, Bob, for joining us. Put your courage feet on, you guys, and we'll talk to you on Friday.